What's up? Welcome to Blake Street Banter, where one of us knows what the word banter means. The other three are just along for the ride. First up, Mike, say what's up.
What up, what up? I feel like I've forgotten everybody's names. It's been a very long time.
It's just been a revolving door of whoever can make it with our BSB team. It's wild. Patrick, say hello.
Hello.
Nice work. Good listener here. And then we are joined by the man of the hour, Mr. Card Collector himself, Grant Hankins. How you doing, big dog?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be exciting. I'm excited to talk cards. I got my stack here. Mike hopefully showed up with some. I mean, Patrick's just always loaded with his uncut sheet behind him. So it's not going to be anything near what you have or ready to go. But huge shout out to you for wearing the BSB shirt. Thank you for representing. Definitely appreciate that. So cards, why did we get into the hobby?
I think obviously back in the day, getting cards as a kid, and then probably like everybody else, COVID and being stuck around, you start digging through and seeing that and trying to learn and catch up with the times, and before you know it, picking up a couple packs and trying to. Social media does its thing and just starts putting it in front of you, and you start getting more and more. But I think the first time was also with Arenado. Tried jumping on there and getting a little bit late on the Arenado cards, but
yeah. So with nostalgia 2020, it's kind of how it hit. Did you collect as a kid?
Yeah, I did.
A lot. Because I know I had like 3 or 4. It was the red. Are they Dunrosses? I think they're the red Donrusses, or might have been Tops. I had those. It was like 96, 97, 98, 99. That's where I kind of went all in and then kind of faded out.
Well, I think those were better years than the late 80s. And
yeah.
where there's a lot of guys around my age that have collections of just piles of cards. And they're like, oh, I've got a bunch of cards. And you're like, you got a lot of junk, but it's fun going through it. Just I don't know. The Bo Jackson was a big thing. And
yep.
Back then I had the Bo Jackson set and pro set cards were coming out for football, and I actually going through the cards. I was tapping the little young me on the back for being so organized and having everything labeled and numbers. So that's more of my gig. I'm not big on being able to remember all the stats like Patrick, but
yeah, the different part. What was your system? How did you organize it? Because I had my system too.
I mean, yeah, I just was going through it. I mean, you just got kind of build the set, right? Get every number, get every card, have it in there, have a secondary set of extras that you could trade out. And, but I mean, it was all over. There was garbage pail kids. There was all kinds of stuff. Those are actually the ones that probably have the most value.
Yeah, right. I think those are the ones that hold up the most. That's
the
awesome.
The hobby has definitely changed a lot. Where in the 80s and early 90s, maybe even late 90s, it was affordable. Like it was for adults, but it was still for kids too. And now, boy, oh boy, I don't know how many newspaper routes you possibly need to afford some of these packs of cards today, because now it's always been about, sharing generations, your dad or your mom opening packs of cards with you, whatever it might be. But now, there's a point in which the kid could possibly save up some money to afford a couple packs of cards with their allowance. And now it's that's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grant, how often do you open up packs versus just going on eBay and finding one you want?
I've cut way back. There was a while that you're trying to find them in stock and you're looking all over the place. But they sell out so quick, and now card shops are going to pick them up off the shelves at the stores, put them in there. I don't know. It's not very often. I was starting to get into breaks. We could talk about that, but with your teams but for kids anymore, I think they have to, get a pack, have some fun with it. But if they have a player they like, try to get the card if they can, and not waste their money on a $50 box anymore of just some random players.
Speaking as a dad with a kid that got really into cards this last year, that's kind of where we're at right now. We were chasing. We're probably about 5 or 6, like 4 to 5 duplicates of the junk cards, so to speak. And we were trying to chase. He was trying to get all the MLB The Stars from 2023, and we did really good. We're doing fine, and then we just kept opening packs for like a month and couldn't find I think it was Pete Alonso. It was like the one card we needed. I was like, hey, so do you want to finish this set? He goes, yeah. I was like, all right, you owe me $1. We're gonna go to eBay, we're gonna find it. If you want it, you give me $1 or $2 and you're get to complete your set. He's like, I'm gonna run up and get my birthday money. Got the $2. He bought it, and he was super stoked that he got the one card to finish his set though in the mail that one day. And that was a pretty cool dad moment. Like, all right, you kind of understand like why we shifted modes and stuff.
Yeah, good job. And yeah, I think they're laying around everywhere, and eBay's put a lot of technology in where some of these large accounts can just have all the multiples and set builders, and you can just go in there and pick them all off and do shipping all at one time. So it's evolved a lot.
Is that fun though? Like that's where I was kind of debating. Like, all right, it's fun to break, it's fun to search, it's fun to, hey, let's go into Target. We'll look for your mom for something, but we'll keep it hush hush, and we'll buy a pack and we'll open up in the car and we start searching. Like that was fun. And then it's like I start looking on eBay for these cards that he wants, and like looking at Riley Green stuff and like, ooh, this is kind of cool. It's just like not as fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
You open packs, you have that chance on that Ohtani signature. That's not what you're looking for, but there's that chance on eBay. You know what you're getting. Like,
yeah. I mean, it is, and then that's kind of what I mentioned to Patrick with the breaks and all the other things that are out there. There's a fine line if you start chasing and trying, thinking it's just in a way like the lottery tickets. You're trying to hit it big, and odds are pretty slim of that. So once you've spent that amount of money, you look back and you're like, oh, I could have just bought, Tovar Superfractor for the amount I've spent on this.
And I know we refer to them as baseball cards, but they're truly trading cards, right? Because they're for all sports and they're for television shows. And it's to trade, it's to be sociable. And again, maybe you're only being sociable with the people in your household and you're opening up with family members. But yeah, with technology and just obviously how advanced things are, and 2024, soon to be 2025, which we don't have the flying cars yet. I was promised flying cars by 2025, but as you said, you can just go on eBay now and get what you need and just pinpoint the thing that it is that you want. And there's not that same kind of hunting mentality where you're hunting down the players that you want. That you got a shot, as Mike pointed out. You might get an Ohtani autograph in there somewhere, but you've got more simplistic wants, like the Riley Green. And then you got to be careful with it, because then do you want to get it graded? And now all of a sudden that opens up another Pandora's box too, where instead of just having the card, you want your card graded. So now it can be worth, in theory, even more and be even nicer than your friend's Riley Green card, because you got a 9.5 and his was only an 8, or maybe it's just raw and it hasn't even been graded at all. It never ends.
No, yeah, it's a big rabbit hole, but you mentioned something there, Patrick, and I think, you start coming home with cards and you're a grown man, you're sitting there thinking, I don't know, and the kids are looking at you, they're teenagers, they're like, Dad, what's up? Like, what are you doing? How'd you get a Yankee? Give me that card. I'll take that. But yeah, the social side of it, I mean, Twitter, X, the hobby community, I mean, everybody from different walks of life doing different things, but you get together on these chats and you start to get to know them, and it really does bring a lot of people together. And that's kind of the fun part. Met a lot of guys on there. I mean, some of them we've even talked about, getting together, golf trips, doing things. So, I mean, you find the right community people, and boy, the hobby, everybody stays on top of the guys that are shady and guys that are good. And it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've been watching from the outside on the Twitter sphere, and it is kind of interesting to see how the hobby is. It seems like a good group of people. Like it seems like everybody's got each other's back, and everybody's like, "No, you need to get that checked out. No, this is what you should do." It's pretty cool. Like you don't see that a lot on Twitter, right? Like it's usually just negative nonsense. So when you see a community that's kind of built itself to be that, it's been pretty cool to kind of watch from the outside. I love it. So I mean, you have these collections. You finished the rainbow of Charlie Blackmon cards. So explain what the rainbow is, and then show us the rainbow.
Yeah. So I mean, they started coming out with refractors, and that takes a lot of time just to study and learn that. And I could give you an example of how much further they add more and more every year, it seems like. But we'll go with Charlie Blackmon's 2009 set. And I was able to score and secure his 1/1 2009 Bowman Superfractor, and was like, I couldn't believe it, right? I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't in comparison. I was telling you how this same exact card set of Mike Trout's broke the record at one point for $3.94 million. And I think that somebody took a huge loss on that. But that's one of the silver linings, right, Patrick, to being a Rockies fan, is being able to pick up a Charlie Blackmon. We know that that's awesome. So as you would go, there's the 1/1 Superfractor, the of 5 red. Then you have the of 25 orange, gold of 50.
Keep in mind, all of these, again, if you're only listening to this on the podcast side, make sure you're going over to the Blake Street Banner channel on YouTube, because you can see all of these cards were autographed by Charlie Blackmon on top of it. This isn't just cards that just have different colors. They all have Charlie Blackmon's signature from back in 2008.
It's like the double rainbow.
Yep. So, I mean, then there's the blue, and you have the rest of the refractors on that. So let's just, this is kind of interesting to see, but that was the complete set in 2009. And then I'm working on Tovar's stuff, right? And this I'm short about. This is the Topps Chrome set, and I'm only a couple cards short, but you can see the difference in the amount of different variations there are nowadays. So if you're trying to complete the rainbow, you're looking at a lot more variations too.
What is it, like double, or is it like
double at least? Yeah. Because now there's a red, or there's a red shimmer. So, and then there's the frozen fractor, and there's a lot.
Yeah,
We're not just making these up. Like, there's a purpose for all of them. But again, for anyone that might not be reading between the lines well enough, 1/1 means there's literally only one of that color that was signed by Charlie Blackmon, which means only one human being on planet Earth owns the entire rainbow of Charlie Blackmon, and it's Grant Hankins.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's cool. Why Charlie? Like, what was the moment that was like, ooh, Charlie is the one?
You know, when he was, we didn't know if he was coming back or what was going to happen there. It was kind of when he signed and he was back. I said, you know, Charlie is just the Rocky to us, right? I mean, I get it with everybody else, but not everybody else. But from what you can say about Charlie Blackmon, Chuck Nasty, he is the essence of the Rockies. I mean, and the beard's the bomb, and you know, everything about him has been great. So I figured he's always going to be in our brains as one of the best Rockies ever. And I thought I better get it while I can. I thought, you know, he'd be probably one more season after this and breaking even more records, but I'm happy that he's now getting to retire and go do the fishing and hunting and have some fun. But he will be missed by us all.
Yeah, he'll definitely leave a little.
That means the collection only will go up in price. So there you go, Grant. Your net worth will.
Yeah. I mean, you look at him too as an investment, but when I bought that one, it was like, well, the kids can get rid of it when I die.
this is hanging out with me until the end.
Yeah.
Love that. So you got into Aaron Shunk cards as well. I want to take
thanks to the show.
I want to thank us for allowing that to happen. How far along are you with that one?
I mean, I've got quite a ways to go, but I've got his gold, and I mean gold of 50, black, blue, another blue, one's a shimmer, and so getting there, working on the Shunk set.
Love that.
Love watching him play and him being on here, getting to know the players more on your show has been incredible. And I mean, that whole story, his dad, the sketches, Shunk being a hunter and all that. It's just a great kid, great young man, right? Just heart. He just bleeds heart. So kind of guy I'd like to collect.
So this is a loaded question because it's maybe good news, maybe bad news, but one of the latest changes in the hobby industry starting in 2023, I discussed this just today on the Rockies Insider podcast, the MLB debut patches that Fanatics started putting on jerseys for players when they made their debut began in 2023. We've just started to see those cards come out. We saw Hunter Goodman's card sell for $1,900 on eBay. His MLB patch from his first game, 2 for 4 in Baltimore, makes the catch for the final out of the game at Camden Yards. It's autographed. Someone now has it. Grant, you've started an Aaron Shunk collection. Yeah. Are you going to have this Aaron Shunk MLB debut patch in your collection at some point in the next couple years?
I hope so. I hope he's tearing it up and that pops up because, I think he's definitely got to be in the collection. Shunk's got to be there, and obviously Tovar. But I wish you could do it all. I mean, I grabbed me a Jordan Beck card, and I got quite a bit of Jordan Beck, all the guys. But and then that's where it's even fun is we didn't talk about the prospecting, but a lot of guys will do that with Bowman cards and buying guys and trying to buy them on the cheap, but while they see what their future is. And it's kind of interesting to watch that too. So.
Yeah, that was me chasing the Bowman this year. I got the Dylan Cruz.
Very nice.
I think I have a Chrome somewhere upstairs. That's the one I could find quickly. But like that, his name was the big one to kind of grab this past year. And I have a buddy who's kind of in the hobby. He's like, I'm watching this number. So like if this guy goes off in the month of April or May, I'm going to be able to sell it up a little bit because that price goes up and he has no connection to him. So it's like, so this is what I'm looking for. It's like, oh, that actually makes sense. I got really lucky. I pulled quite a bit of Ellie De La Cruz's, Bowman's, few to get graded and sell. Then some Yamamoto's. That one was interesting. It was like Yamamoto big league. That was ungraded raw was pretty high. Like, okay, so we'll see what goes there. And then going back to the nostalgia stuff, going through a box, found a Derek Jeter rookie from the Score, and it was just in a box, like kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like you go back and you go through it. It's actually my brother-in-law's card, and I was like, I'm just gonna send it in and get graded because I was trying to figure out what the whole grading system was like, and so sent that in, got a nice 9.5 on that. I was like, that's kind of cool. And then got a Brett Favre graded one. That one was just hanging out for the longest one, little 8. But
that's just because you're a big fan of the movie, you know. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank is the name of it. There's Something About Mary. Sorry. You're a big There's Something About Mary fan. That's why
I don't know where you're going with this
movie
one.
card.
Yeah. And then I got all the prospects and stuff that we've had on, been able to autograph. This one's probably my favorite for obvious reasons. So, but it's been fun, like getting the cards and getting the sets from like Fresno. Huge shout out to Julian from the Fresno Grizzly team to send those over. and just kind of be part of it. It's been fun.
Yeah. I mean, it is fun, and it gives you something to collect and chase after, and it's cool.
Yeah, one of the other changes I've noticed in the industry is we're starting to see a rise in players collecting their own cards, at least high-end cards. Shohei Ohtani is going to be in court later on this month to try to get back some of his cards. We know about that whole situation with his interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, but players are trying to get their cards back. We've had folks ripping open a debut patch card, for example, and then the player reaching out saying, hey, can we make a trade? Have you thought, and if not, right here on the spot, Grant, think about it. If you were to come across and you were to get that MLB debut patch card for Aaron Schunk, would you trade it to him? Would you give it? Would you sell it? What would you want in exchange for something like that? Or does that just stay in your collection?
No, I mean, if they're wanting to get that, I think that's important for them. I mean, I'd say the Charlie Blackmon Superfractor. If Charlie wanted that, I what am I to say? No, yeah, you can have that. We'll work something out. But
hunting, you got to go hunting with a guy.
Like, you're going on a fishing trip with Chuck. Like, that's what you're saying yes to.
Yeah. Let's go get out. We'd probably get after, do some hunting, and just get to pick his brain and get the knowledge of the things he's done and experienced. I mean, it's more about getting to know people and the experiences through that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, if you having that Superfractor is pretty amazing, but if the players are wanting it, Bo Jackson just had a thing out. He has a card out, and he put out there, like, I'll fly 2 people out. I really want this card for the family. I'll fly them out if they find it and play golf or whatever. And that would be cool too. So I think there's a lot of things in being able to incorporate. I think at some point, Tovar and I are going to have to sit down and I need a translator, but
that would be fun. Could you imagine? That should be like a little Rockies behind the scene thing where Tovar meets Grant and they trade the cards. That could be a fun little Rockies behind the scenes things. I know they did a few of those last year, so that could be kind of fun. So if you're listening, Rockies brass, go ahead and make that happen for us. Anything else you want to show us before we get you out of here, Grant?
No, I mean, this is the Tovar set I need to finish, right?
What do you need?
Oh my God, you're doing that?
That'd
be sick.
Yeah, that is. These are the 101s.
So explain it to the viewers.
So
here.
Yeah, and this. So Topps Dynasty, the patches, the cards are just. I mean, they're amazing cards, but they also have of 5 and of 10, and then they have 4 different variations. So this is one of the silver, or I don't know if they call them silver, but of 5, and then these are all the 101s, and there's 4 of them. So if anybody sees number 3, ET3, Ezequiel Tovar's 3rd, then that would complete that set. And I think those 2 sets would be about the sets I need to have. But I mean, he's just come. I saw him playing, and he reminded me kind of saw Arenado at spring training before he popped off, and just the way he was sliding to 3rd, and just the amount of passion and heart behind, he had carried. It was like that. This guy's going to be big. And Tovar, you see the same thing. And I mean, my biggest respect, being more of a hockey guy growing up and playing, is I really like how Tovar handles himself. Yeah, the strikeouts happen, but I don't think I've ever seen him look back or ask or say anything to an umpire. I mean, he takes it, and yeah, you're going to strike out, you're going to fail, but how do you handle it? And a lot of guys today, you see them, asking about every pitch of where was it at? Are you sure? And the kids are doing it now. And so I think how Tovar handles himself, carries himself, plays the game. Yeah. Can't wait to see the future.
Yeah, definitely some respect in his game in that sense. Kind of just go out there, play ball, and leave it between the lines. Love that. Grant, thank you for hanging out. Anything you want to plug your Twitter, your eBay? Let the listeners know where they can find you if they find that Tovar 3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Twitter is under my name. So Grant Hankins on Twitter, and then for eBay, Southern Colorado Collectibles, it's just a nights, weekends. If I have time, I try to list them. And at some point I'm going to have to get rid of a lot of cards. So that would be the place to, if you get on there and follow it, I will eventually get some cards up and hopefully make a good deal for somebody. That's pretty much it. Enjoy getting to watch what you guys do. You guys are always grinding. I can't wait just for the future. You guys keep plugging away. You're giving us all the knowledge. We appreciate that. Appreciate your time you put into all this every week. Patrick's dropping wicked knowledge, that like unbelievable amount of knowledge that Patrick brings. And too. So you guys just keep grinding, keep going. And the only other thing I'd love to see is Blake Street banner kind of group for opening day. We need to find a place to all get together and do some tailgating and get to, know each other through who we see on, interacting and everything. That would be great.
Going back to that community.
Thanks for having me.
Do it this year.
Yeah. Maybe you can write a handwritten message to management and let me get out of here for a few days in April. I haven't quite been brave enough to bring that topic up, but I would love to get a community gathering in Denver sometime soon. But yeah, appreciate you, Grant. Thank you for hanging out, and we'll talk to you next time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Take care.
See ya. Grant Hankins, like that card collection. Is it so? Would you rather have that uncut sheet behind you or the rainbow of Charlie Blackmon? Would you trade that uncut for his Charlie?
I mean, yeah, because I could probably still just get this sheet for like $50 on eBay. So I would still do that. Yeah. No, there's no specific, the only sentimentality about this sheet of cards is just that it was just one that I loved when I was a kid, but I can replicate that. You can't replicate a 101. That's for sure.
No, you can't. I didn't know the uncuts were that readily available.
They're not. That's the weird thing. They're both worthless and hard to find. It's kind of strange, but yeah, no, I maybe it was only a quarter of a second that when I held that Superfractor in my hand when Grant and I got together last month at our Saber luncheon, I thought about maybe running out the door, and I said, no, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. But it was cool seeing all those in person, and it's a great collection.
It really was. This was sent to me a while ago. This is a 1-of-1 Chase Dollander card. Homer says dope, and that was brought to my attention by a friend of the pod, Brian, MTV to Nevada, and he's like, is this real? And reach out to Chase, friend of the pod, like, yeah, that's 1-of-1. It's the only one that's out there. Doe, because people call me Doe, and that is why that is on there. So if you're looking on the YouTube, watching the YouTube, that is still available on the eBay. You might be able to get a little make an offer in there for that 165 for a 1-of-1 signed on card Chase Dollander Onyx card. Kind of fun when they do that, because I remember when Benny was getting into it, he was coming out, Benny and the Jets, he was writing little messages on his cards, his rookie cards and stuff, and that was really fun to do.
That's fun. Yeah, Benny's also great too, where I've seen him down in spring training. Those sometimes they're kids, sometimes it's adult. They've got the full binder ready to rock, and he'll go and he'll just straight up sign for a couple of minutes for anyone who asks. So he's a good guy.
Yes. All right, enough about cards. Let's talk rocks. Is that how we want to end our day? Let's might as well, right? Get into it. Let's look at the winter meetings. The winter meetings is coming up in next week, so next Monday for a few days. And I believe, Mr. Lyons, you are headed down to the winter meetings to be part of the conversations. Into the weeds.
That's it, getting into the weeds. I don't know if I'm going to find anything down there, but nevertheless, yeah, I'll be in Dallas for the Rockies Insider with just baseball, and might even, if you guys do any shows late at night, maybe I'll have to call in and give you some up to the date, conversations that are going on in and around the winter meetings. We'll be talking with Bud Black, I think Monday. He's going on Monday night, and then a couple opportunities talking with both Bill Schmidt and Bud Black, sort of about what the plans are for the rest of the offseason, as well as, what they're looking to do during the 2025 campaign.
Oh, I love that. Do you have your questions lined up already, or is that still a work and research project?
I do have some. I'm curious about getting some updates on Kris Bryant, because I know the training staff is going out to Las Vegas to make sure that his rehab was going to go well, so that he could be on the field more than not. I'm curious about the Roki Sasaki situation. The Rockies don't exactly scout over in Asia with boots on the ground. It's more through video. So I imagine that certainly hurts their chances. But considering the fact that they will have one of the largest international bonus pools amongst all 30 teams, they can offer more money to Sasaki than anybody else. I don't think that's going to be the most important thing for him. Nevertheless, it's something worth bringing up and talking about.
And Mike, you might be able to help me on this. Who's the KBO guy that was just posted today?
Hassan Kim.
Yeah,
it's like the same as Hassan Kim. It's like
I think it's high versus Ha. Yeah.
So second baseman
Kim
would be fun.
Yeah, because I saw he just got posted today too. So that'd be interesting. I don't know if the Rockies would really go that route with what they have coming up and all that. But yeah, right. Like, do we got bait with Mr. Farmer already? Who knows? But yeah, the winter meetings, like you said, it's starting Monday. I think you come back Thursday, the 12th. But the big moment, draft lottery, is going to be on the 10th. And then the Rule 5 draft is on Wednesday, the 5th. You can go check out the article that Tyler just posted today on BlakeStreetBanter.com. Talked a little bit about the winter meetings and things that were going to be popping up on that. So kind of his 2 cents about what the draft lottery looks like, and some needs that Patrick was just kind of talking about. But who do the Rockies add in the arm barn? Are we looking at a rotation piece, a lineup piece? So go over to Blake Street Banter and look at Tyler's article about that. He's the smartest one of anybody at BSB. So, it's going to be worth your time looking that up there. But the Rule 5, Mike, it's kind of fun, right? It's a thing.
It's an acquired taste. People like me, it's very fun. It's something random in the middle of December that I get excited for. But for the casual fan, I'm sure they kind of skip past it. But
and what is the Rule 5?
We always pick high in this one.
So explain the Rule 5 to us casuals.
So essentially, you can only protect 40 people. And if you don't protect 40 people, you can select somebody. And this is very basic terms. And then if you select that person, they have to be on your MLB roster for the whole season. If not, they go back. So we see last year we got somebody, I totally forgot the name.
Anthony Molina.
So it worked out pretty fine. It's basically a free player.
Yeah.
If used correctly.
If used correctly. And Anthony Molina, would you say he was used correctly last year? I feel like they had a plan with him.
I mean, for a Rule 5 draft, you can't really have great expectations, but
I thought they did a good job of. That's a good way of describing it. At least in the case of the Rockies, where it was a free player that they did want to add to their farm system, and they were going to be shuttling a lot of guys back and forth from AAA to the majors. So just protect him. He can have his bullpen days where you could stretch him out longer, and then you'd actually set him up for some success in games that were kind of maybe a little bit out of hand, just so he can get some big league experience. The plan now is, I think for a lot of teams, when they take someone in the Rule 5 draft, that's a guy that is going to be really a part of the picture for their big league team going forward, because they just spent the entire season in the majors. The Rockies, the plan at least was for Molina to go back to AAA in 2025, stretch out and become a full-time starter. He's still only 22 years old, so you can kind of have your cake and eat it too in that way. So Molina is just, further starting pitcher depth for the Rockies going forward.
And you answer my next question. Is Molina a starter in 2025? And if so, is he making the big league squad on opening day? I think I would pencil him in as the long reliever right now, as in the arm barn, like that kind of tie block type piece where you don't know if you need that 5th, 6th starter, you need that long reliever. I can kind of see him being that guy, unless the Rockies surprise us and put a Blaylock or Gordon in that setting, which I don't know if they necessarily will, but Jeff Criswell could also play that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Molina, but with the free player, so to speak, that we have. So before we get to the draft lottery, I want to go to the Rule 5, the history of the Rockies Rule 5 draft. And we're just going to go back to 2013. You will start catching on a trend here. The Rule 5 is fun, but there's not a lot of, ooh, that guy's a Rule 5. The pool is pretty small of big sharks that get selected in this pool of fish here. But the Rockies have selected some guys that should get your attention. One being on the cover of the thumbnail on the podcast there. But before we get there, 2013, Tommy Kahnle from the Yankees. Is this the same Tommy Kahnle that's still pitching today? Same
That's
guy,
correct.
right?
Yeah. The Rockies took him out of the Yankees system, and now you just saw him in the postseason back with the Yankees. So they definitely are fond of him. But going back to Lewis's explanation, if a player is not protected on the 40-man roster, and he's if you're 18 and younger, and you've been in the minors for 5 years or more, and you haven't been put on the 40-man. Now you are exposed. If you're 19 or older and you've been in the minors for 4 years or more, you have to be put on. So, this was a rule that came about back in the 50s and 60s when you had teams like the St. Louis Cardinals who had like 8 different minor league teams, and they could just stockpile players left and right. And Major League Baseball just decided like, okay, that isn't fair. You can't really hide players. So like Roberto Clemente was a guy that, again, part of Branch Rickey, who worked with the Cardinals, worked with the Brooklyn Dodgers. But Roberto Clemente was stashed in the minor leagues. They tried to hide him and not play him when the scouts were coming out. Sure enough, when Pittsburgh had the pick that next year, he was selected by the Pirates, and I believe is still the only Hall of Famer to be a Rule 5 pick. But that's one of the reasons why, so that there wouldn't be this embarrassment of riches, and so that players could have more rights, right? Imagine if you were, you played center field in AAA for the Yankees. Am I ever going to get a shot? You got Joe DiMaggio, and then you got Mickey Mantle playing, and you just never really get that opportunity. So this is a way to kind of balance that a little bit.
Yeah, to go off what Patrick just said, we see the effect of this rule all year round. Teams will trade a player because they don't have really space for him, and he's eligible. So we see the Rule 5 draft happens before the Rule 5 draft, if you think about it. With the way teams make moves, it makes a lot more trades happen because you can't stockpile super high-value players in the minor leagues.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, that's why Zach Veen was added to the 40-man a few weeks ago. But back in 2013, Tommy Kahnle was the big one that was selected by the Rockies. He pitched, I think, 2 seasons with the Rockies and jumped around before finding a new home in the New York Yankees system. But that wasn't even the biggest name in 2013 that was related to the Colorado Rockies. Russell Wilson selected in the Rule 5 draft? Explain this MILB Rule 5.
Yeah, it's kind of similar. To be honest, I don't know all of the inner workings.
I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah,
nobody knows.
I think you're right. No, but even if you're in the minor leagues, like, hey, I've been in, let's say, high A for 3-4 seasons now at this point. I'm already past. I'm not going to be added to the 40-man roster, but maybe a AA team could use me. And really, when we say a AA team, we're just talking about a major league team filling its AA roster. So Russell Wilson, did actually play some games with the Asheville Tourists for the Colorado Rockies when he was drafted out of NC State, played a little bit of second base. There are a couple baseball cards, actual baseball cards of Russell Wilson out there. And by that point, I don't think he had won a Super Bowl yet for the Seahawks, but one of the things that some teams like to do, at least in spring training, is bring in some celebrities to give them some at-bats. And so Rangers saw an opportunity to poach Russell Wilson. He was not going to be a professional ball player anymore, but he could be a guy that shows up to spring training for a couple at-bats, and everyone feels good about it. So, yeah, Rockies ended up losing Russell Wilson to the Rangers in 2013.
Was that the same? Were the Rangers the one that signed Garth Brooks to play?
I want to say maybe the Padres did. He might have played for a couple teams. Maybe the Rangers were one.
Because I wonder if that was just the Rangers spring training plan in 2013. It's like, hey, let's get all these guys in here to just get people in the stands. But yeah, Russell Wilson selected in the Rule 5. That was something I learned while doing that research. And then
so
the other
selected in the MLB draft, NFL draft, Rule 5 draft. That's got to be the only player ever to do that.
Ooh,
Maybe.
I don't know. Patrick might know that.
that's a fun little trivia. There's a new spreadsheet for you.
You know what you just did there? You invented a stat. You invent, and that's what I love. So I like that. I hope you're right.
Get the spreadsheet running, Patrick.
I
don't know how you're gonna find this one out, but
I'm gonna have to.
Well, I guess you won't really. Yeah, you can figure it out.
I mean, the pool's got to be small
Very
enough
small.
where it's MLB, NFL, like Kyler Murray, but he didn't play in the majors at all. So that I think you might just found
he could
the
be
one.
taken. He could be taken in a minor league phase right now, but you're right. Like he hasn't yet. So Kyler Murray drafted in both sports. Dave Winfield, I believe, is the only player to be drafted in the NFL, NBA, and MLB. And I don't even think he had played football since he was like in middle school. But it was just like, this guy is he's a freak of nature physically. We'll just draft him just in case. Why not?
That was a little nugget for me too there. 2014, another big name. Now, would this have changed the trajectory of the Colorado Rockies if they would have held on to him? Mark Canha was selected by the Rockies from the Miami Marlins, but then immediately traded to Oakland for Austin House. Who is Austin House? I don't know. Nobody knows. But would have Mark Canha have helped the Rockies be a little bit more playoff in 17, 18, 19, 20? Would he have pushed that envelope?
I mean, probably. He's had a really good career. He's still sticking around. He's actually a player that, depending on who you ask, might be a decent fit for the Rockies to sign in free agency if they're looking for a more veteran right-handed bat. But to maybe answer your question in a different way, I don't think the Rockies were interested in actually drafting Mark Canha. I mean, that's why they didn't keep him. That's one of the odd things, too, about the Rule 5 draft is a lot of times the Rockies, that we'll get to here in a moment, they've punted on the Rule 5 draft. But once in a while, the phone rings and it's someone like the Oakland A's going, hey, you've got a really high pick. We'll give you some cash considerations. Or Austin House, who ended up topping out as a relief pitcher with the AAA Isotopes in 2018. So you still get something for nothing because you were just going to not draft anybody because you weren't prepared to carry this guy on the 40-man roster for the full season. So you know what? Everybody wins.
I found, sorry to interrupt, there's another player. Brandon Whedon was also in all three drafts selected. So
Brandon Whedon was a baseball player too. Yeah. He was Oklahoma A&M.
I think Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. Yeah. I did not know he played baseball. Okay.
You also might want to look up Drew Henson. He might fit that bill too.
Yes.
I think a lot more than we think. Now that I'm
Yankees, Cowboys.
He was like the third guy I looked up. So.
Yeah, you start getting into kind of the run-of-the-mill NFL players who were around for a few times, not like the Hall of Famers like Dave Winfield. That there you go. You have two on your spreadsheet now. 2014, the Cubs selected Taylor Featherson from the Rockies, later traded to the Angels, and then Daniel Winkler. Game changers. 2015, Luis Perdomo was taken by St. Louis and then traded to the Padres. Seems to be a theme here. Colorado Rockies took Luis Niebla from the Yankees in the MILB piece. And then DJ Johnson, Los Angeles Angels right-hand pitcher from the Marlins. It's DJ Johnson. He was a Rocky after that?
Yeah, I think it was 2019 when he finally made his debut. He might have even pitched in 2020. So, again, the minor league phase, you might not necessarily get a guy who becomes a big leaguer for you because maybe they need to go and figure out a couple of things. But DJ Johnson was, beloved Rockies reliever there for a minute. Had a big old beard, nice guy. I think he was from Oregon. So didn't work out for the Angels and Marlins, but he ended up, still being able to have, a short big league career. So some of these guys in the minors, don't totally count them out. It's why, one of the things that you guys do really well at Lake Street Banner is, covering the minor league phase. Last year when you say, okay, Brendan Hardy was drafted. Could this guy possibly be something? If it doesn't happen for the Rockies, he might work out later on down the line for somebody else. So the minor league phase is still an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, last year we selected Brendan Hardy, friend of the pod. That was an interesting one. Was fantastic in Double A. Was starting to make good moves. I think he's a free agent right now, so we'll see what comes up with that. I think I messed up 2016 because the timeline doesn't match. But Josh Rutledge was selected by Boston in 2016, but he played in Boston in 2015. So maybe I got the year wrong on that. I don't know.
No, so I think he got let go. He was ruled a free agent by the Red Sox, and the Rockies signed him like a month before the Rule 5 draft, and Boston said, "Okay, we're just going to take him right back now."
How do you know that?
I don't know.
Like, did you research that before we started talking? Like, or is that just like off the dome, like Patrick Lyons trivia, like Grant was talking about?
I don't know. This is what I tell people. It's not that I remember things, I just don't forget. So that's the secret. Just don't forget something when you learn it.
It's just a random piece of Josh Rutledge there. So
how much more of Josh Rutledge would you know?
That's it.
Yeah, that's about it.
I mean, 105 games for the Colorado Rockies in 2014. Was a negative WAR player all 6 years of his major league career. But that is wild because he ended up coming back to the Boston Red Sox that year, making the pros. His 1 year of professional positive WAR was in 2016 with Boston in his 28 games of 0.4. So the Red Sox probably saved money because they got a minor league deal with a major league ball player, and there they are. That's a fun little fact. That's wild. So Anthony,
on his Baseball Reference page, November 3rd, 2016, he was granted free agency because he was acquired by the Red Sox for Shane Victorino. And then 20 days later, he was signed as a free agent by the Rockies. And then 15 days later, the Red Sox said, "Actually, we want you back. We want you back on the team." It's weird.
That's a wild story. That might be a 1-1 too. Next is Anthony Bemboom, catcher for the Angels. The Rockies selected him from the Angels, which is interesting, as one of you pointed out on the rundown, was listed as a pitcher. So Bemboom was a pitcher, but I know he was a catcher for a year or two for the Rockies, based off of that MILB phase in 2016.
It's kind of funny, yeah, because even if you cover, Major League Baseball, you're not covering, every minor league guy, and there's times in which I think we all type something or write something or say it, but then you catch yourself and you go, "Oh, wait, I got it." That they did not catch that. That still exists on an MLB site out there somewhere. So yeah, Bemboom did catch for the Isotopes there that entire season, and he's an interesting footnote for an article just waiting in the hopper about the 2020 season and Daniel Bard and him giving up a game-tying home run to Anthony Bemboom, which was in the same game in which Charlie Blackmon hit the walk-off grand slam, only the second ever walk-off grand slam. And that wouldn't have happened were it not for Anthony Bemboom and were it not for the pandemic. That's a whole other story.
But more importantly, like Anthony Bemboom really affected that game.
Yeah, oh, yeah. He was around in that game doing things. Bemboom ended up going back to the Angels in 2019, 2020, 2021. So what goes around comes around, full circle there. 2017, Julian Fernandez. I haven't said Julian Fernandez's name more than I have in the last 4 weeks because of the TJ, the Rule 5, the selecting, because we were wondering if UNR Herrera would be selected or saved on the 40-man. He wasn't because of the TJ, and then Julian Fernandez's name came up because of the TJ not being selected by the Rockies in 2017, and then he ended up being taken by the Giants, even though he was clear that he had TJ surgery and everything. Giants still took him, put him on the 60-day IL for that entire season, was released at the end of it, picked up by the Miami Marlins in 2019, sat on the IL that entire season, and then came back to the Colorado Rockies in the offseason of 2019, where he made his debut a few years later. I'm not sure where he is at now, but that is a 40-man MILB mesh, Rule 5 mesh there with Julian Fernandez. Is he still pitching somewhere?
Not to my knowledge. No, I'm not sure where he's at. He might be kicking around somewhere. I was just talking with someone about Colton Welker the other day, and who signed a deal in the Mexican League for this upcoming season after playing independent ball with the York Revolution. So I never give up hope. But look, the Giants and Marlins both saw a lot in him as a guy who could throw 100 miles an hour at least before Tommy John surgery. He was able to do that after, and he's an interesting case because when he made his major league debut in 2021, he had already had 2 years of service time,
which is crazy, and only pitched 6.2 innings for the Rockies. He did jump around with the Rockies the next season for AAA, and then went to the Toronto system in 2023. And then he's been playing Winter League, Mexican League, last 2 years, just finding time to play 45 games in the last year across the Mexican League and the Dominican Winter League. So he's
killing right the Mexican League right now.
Yeah, 1.82 ERA. So maybe he's down there with who was that catcher? William Rosario, who's still around somewhere doing things too. 2017 MILB phase, Rockies select Matt Horacek from the Orioles. Nothing. 2018, no selection by the Rockies. Nobody was poached from the Rockies in the MLB Rule 5, but Brenton was selected from the Rockies by the Mariners. Spent all of 1 month and 0 games with Colorado as he was a minor league signing in November of 2018. Was great in 2019 for the Seattle Mariners.
I must point out real quick, Julian Fernandez and Ashton Godot. I don't know if you guys remember that name.
Yeah, good old Godot.
Teammates last year in the Mexican League with Yanquiel Puig too. So stacked team.
Wow. Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Ashton Godot, wasn't he born on July 23rd?
Yes.
Yeah. It sounds ridiculous. That's also my birthday. That's the only reason.
Okay, thank God.
Yes.
That would have been a wild random fact. 2019, no selections, MILB phase. We picked up Nat Grape from the Brewers. I know he was part of the Rocky system for a few more years after that. And then Michael Peterson, who was let go last year, ended up making his debut with the Dodgers last year. But he was selected from the Brewers in 2019. He was one of the few prospects that was hitting 300 for the Rockies. That was by the way,
where did Michael Peterson end up earning his first career big league victory?
That wasn't in Coors because he did it for the Dodgers and gets us in his debut. Yeah,
that's awesome, right?
That one I remember. Yeah, that's just a nice little callback for Rockies fans. Like this is where we're at. And then there's a few more selected in 2019, but I have a fun story about one of them. Jacob Bosiakovic was signed, picked up by the Cardinals, and he's still around with the St. Louis Cardinals. He's up and down going through it. But I went to a Indianapolis Indians game for spring break last year, and they were playing the St. Louis affiliate, and Bosiakovic was in the bullpen. It was cold. It was rainy. It was me and my kids sitting in the front row. Like, hey, does he want a ball? Yep. Got the ball from Bosiakovic, looked him up. It's like, oh, he was a Rocky. He was drafted by the Rockies. Oh, that's a fun little connection. So I have minor league baseball from Bosiakovic, who was selected in the 2019 MILB phase from the Cardinals, and it ended up going back. 2020, Jordan Sheffield from the Dodgers. Successful first year with the Colorado Rockies. I remember it just being like, this is what we can get in the Rule 5. This can happen. It was great in that 2020 shortened season. Did not come back and do great things in 2021. Bounced around. I think he was actually released in the middle of 2021. Went back to, I think he's done because I know he has his brother in Seattle, but I don't know if Jordan ever found a team, another home after that. Dodgers lost 6 players that year, which seems like a lot. None were taken from the Rockies. And then the Giants took Vince Fernandez in the MILB phase. 2021, no Rule 5 because of Major League Rule 5 because of the lockout. MILB phase did not go down as these players were not part of the MLB Players Association. Rockies took Gabriel Rodriguez, who I thought was a fun little one. Big arm, no control. I don't think he even lasted the season that year. And then Zach Madsen from the Pirates was selected away from the Rockies. Joaquin Cabrera, that was one I was surprised about because he was in the Adrian Pinto, Juan Brito kind of phase of prospects coming up. You kind of could see some things, but Joaquin Cabrera was one of the first prospects I was following along that got selected, went up to the Mariners. And I know he is still in that system because I remember seeing his name come across in one of the minor league games. And then back to what Patrick was saying earlier about, hey, you have a selection. Can you select this guy and trade? We'll send you cash. Kevin Kelly was selected by the Rockies in 2022 from the Guardians, but traded directly to the Rays for cash, I think within an hour after the Rule 5 draft was over. Not sure if he made his debut yet, but I'm sure the Rays turned him into a fire rotation piece.
He had a really solid 2023. I don't remember keeping tabs on him this past year. Was just as good in 24 as he was in 23. 125 games the last 2 seasons for Kevin Kelly, 137 and 2/3 innings pitched, 2.88 ERA. He's been worth 2.4 wins above replacement, and the Guardians didn't put him on the 40-man roster.
That's what Bill Schmidt needs to do on Wednesday. Call the Rays, say, who do you want? Who do you like? And then just don't give them to the Rays. And then just keep that player. And I think we'll be good.
Yeah, right. We saw Joe Rock added to the 40-man. Speaking of Rays taken from the Colorado Rockies. Mateo Gil, part of the Arenado trade, was selected by the Mets in that year. And then Isaac Collins was selected by the Brewers from the Rocks. And I think pretty sure he made his debut last year up in Milwaukee. Anthony Molina was the one selection in 2023 from the Rays. So maybe Billy Schmidt was taking a note from what you just said there, Mike. But they lost about 5 players or 5 transactions in the MILB phase of it. Phineas Del Bonta Smith, Nick Garcia went to the Giants, Gabriel Barbosa to the Yankees, Nelvis Ochoa to the Orioles, and Alan Perdomo to the Mets. So a lot of names being dropped last year. Nick Garcia was in the Connor Joe trade a few years ago. Didn't really do much at the AA level, but Phineas Del Bonta Smith was one that I was kind of sad to see go because I think he will be a major leaguer. Has some stuff in there. We should be able to see him somewhere in the majors doing something in the arm barn there. And then the Rockies, they are set up to maybe select one in the MLB phase coming up in a week. They have 1 spot open on their 40-man spot. There are plenty of prospects to be taken. You see a lot of pitchers and mostly relievers being selected in this phase. Do the Rockies select anybody?
It could be the Juan Soto spot on the 40-man. So you never know.
Could be saving it for that one guy, right?
Yeah.
Soto.
But yeah, we definitely will select somebody.
That's a hot take. Usually the Rockies do punt on their pick. So, right, Tommy Kahnle, you had in 2013, and then you had to go all the way up until 2020 before Jordan Sheffield. Yeah. So and we're not even, and notice you could draft a guy, and if he doesn't make your roster or it's just not going to work out, you basically give him back to his previous team. So there's no harm, no foul in just drafting a guy, but he's got to figure in and factor in part of your plans. Rockies just never plan to take someone in the Rule 5 draft, I guess, unless they give the organization some pause. So I don't know if there's anybody out there like that now. 2 Rule 5 picks in the last, say, 4 Rule 5 drafts. All right, maybe the math is a little different. They do got that extra roster spot. They already have a really young bullpen right now, and they already have 9 outfielders, many of which are rookies and are in AAA. So I don't know. I'm going to say it's unlikely. I
think I'm going to agree with you. I just don't know who's out there, what's available.
I just think like in years past, we weren't. What are we at, pick 2? Like I think there's going to be somebody there, and I think a lot of our bullpen players have a lot of options. We can send in like we have spots that we can make for a bullpen guy that has to stay up, like a Molina we did last year. So I don't know. I think we have 39 spots, 1 spot available. I don't know. I think it just makes sense to select somebody. I don't know who's out there to be selected. Got to read Tyler's article. Should have known, but I think we'll get someone that will be the bullpen guy and someone that will probably be a little upset at like mid-season. We'll probably be like, why did we get this guy? But it'll be somebody.
Okay, you heard it. Does a player get selected from the Rockies? in the MILB Rule 5, probably.
In the minor league phase, yeah, that does seem to happen all the time. Yeah, I don't know about anybody in the major league phase. Juan Guerrero, Connor Van Scoyac, probably not. We've been waiting. It's been a while. So who was the last player taken at the major league level? I mean, Brenton was taken by the Mariners, but he wasn't even developed by the Rockies. They signed him, I think, a month before the draft, and like similar to Josh Rutledge. So, I mean, Everth Cabrera, is that the last guy that was actually in the Rockies system that was taken in the major league phase of the Rule 5 draft? So probably not in the major league phase, but in the minor league phase, oh yeah, it happens all the time.
Pitchers. We'll be seeing some pitchers move around here or there.
Yeah.
I kind of hope the Rockies have somebody selected in the major league phase to prove that our farm is still growing and still getting stronger, and there is somebody worthwhile to take. So I could see Connor Van Scoyac maybe getting a shot from somebody. He's been decent. He has good enough numbers where you could take a shot like an Anthony Molina from a player. I don't think Juan Guerrero gets selected. There's a few other names on that list that MILB Rockies report posted that you can always go back in there. We also have it on our website there. But Rule 5 is
top 100 prospects that could be selected. We saw that last year. The Guardians took.
Are there?
There are
if you're a top 100 prospect, you get protected.
There are a couple, but it would just be like you would have to really thug it out with them through the season. They definitely aren't ready. But
because they're young cats.
Delos Santos last year, like a top 100 prospect, but then returned him like a month into the season to the Diamondbacks. So then flipped him to Miami trade deadline. So
because there are some Latin players that are young enough to be in the Rule 5 that aren't quite ready for it, that are still working their way through single A, double A.
You mean top 30 prospects for within the organization?
There's top 100 prospects on there. I was listening to the MLB Pipeline podcast. They were talking about it today. There's a few that might be taken in the Rule 5.
I don't know that that's ever happened. If you're a top 100 prospect, you get protected.
So, if Zach Veen wasn't protected, does a team take a flyer on him to be their starting left fielder an entire major league season?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think, and again, Veen can definitely make an impact in the Rockies roster just this next year. But even if it's another team, even if you look at someone, let's say the Giants, right, who seem like they have a few more pieces than the Rockies right now, and they wouldn't totally surprise you if they were a wild card team this next season. Could they use Veen off the bench, kind of hide him a little bit, give him a start just like twice a week? Yeah, absolutely, because he probably was going to be making his debut at some point during the season anyway, so they're just advancing his clock just a little bit. So if you're a top 100 guy, you're definitely getting protected. I want to say, like, I was even surprised there was one team, maybe Cleveland, that there was someone that was like a top 10 prospect for them in their system that was not protected, and that was just like a shock. But it's even rare for a top 30 prospect to not get protected in the Rule 5 draft, because those are all the guys that have the highest upside. And, sure, if they are, in low A or high A and they're really young, that definitely becomes a stretch to protect those guys, because you got, like you said, you got to be on the active roster, not just. That's one of the reasons why Julian Fernandez came back to the Rockies, was because despite the fact he had service time, he wasn't actually active on the 26-man active roster. So despite the fact that he was on 2 big league teams for 2 full seasons, he still was under the guise of the Rule 5 draft. So that's why he went back to the Rockies.
Right.
Lewis, you got something on that or what?
A
top 100 prospect?
I'm trying to find one.
How about this? All right, I got a question for you. And this is a question about you, Aaron, but Lewis is going to answer it. How quickly does Aaron buy a St. Louis Cardinals jersey if Dugan Darnell gets taken in the Rule 5 draft? How many hours? How many days?
I'll give it like 2 days.
Aaron?
I think if you would have chosen almost any other team, maybe, but the Dodgers and St. Louis Cardinals, I'm not putting that jersey in my closet.
Those are the
Even
two.
if it is Dukes, I'll go buy a Goats jersey or a Topes jersey for that.
All right, Pirates. If it's Pirates,
Yeah.
it's like an hour. You're ordering it in an hour.
It's probably an hour. Yeah, it's
Okay.
not taking very long if he gets selected by anything that's not red or blue. Yeah,
Fair.
yeah. And if that's what it takes, like, yeah, there's some friends of the pod that's like, you can go elsewhere, you can make your debut, and like Grant Levine, Hunter Stovall, like these are guys that have been grinding for years and years, and they're free agents this year. So like, are they going to get selected? And then if they make their way up, like Isaac Collins did last year through the system and make their debut, I think there's a few of those guys I need to do that. But I also need to get Noah Davis and Aaron Schunk Rockies jersey before I do that too. Jerseys just so expensive, and I never wear them, so I don't want to buy them.
This is an interesting little nugget about the Rule 5 draft. Because we're perfect like 4 years after COVID, it's a smaller draft pool than normal because not a lot of people were signed. Draft was only 20 rounds. So that's just an interesting little nugget that I found while searching for players available.
There you go. All right, guys, let's end it. Pick your poison. How do you guys want to end it? Do you want to end it with who is your best Rockies Rookie of the Year candidate? Or do you want to go over to Reddit and read Rockies Reddit for a little bit?
I want to read Rockies Reddit. I'm excited. So
Rockies Reddit it is.
Some interesting takes.
I'm afraid. I'm clenching right now.
I am as well. We are going to go to new guy Cam. We posted his article, I think his first one, titled as Rockies Poised for New Direction After Non-Tendering Quantrill and Rogers. Ooh, we could do this. Hold on. If you are listening, I am putting the Reddit on the YouTube so you can follow as I read. It's kind of fun, right? So Cam wrote this piece right after the B-Rod and Cal thing. I did not think it was very slanted to being super positive Colorado Rockies. I thought it was pretty fair. But BSB has a way about it being too positive, I guess. But we'll get into that. Churchill said something along the lines, if you're going through hell, keep going. But until there's new ownership, this organization will never find the way out. That's fun. There's only one direction in the Rockies baseball, and this is at the bottom of the barrel. Yes, this is the same direction. That had 43 upvotes. New direction, the toilet. Eli Shashasky says. Kind of funny. This was, I think, an honest take. Honest take by Broadman08. We were never getting anything for Rogers during the past year. He's well below average in every facet, just not a player with trade value. That said, it would have made sense to take his last arbitration year to see if we can get his trade value up. The Cantrell piece is infuriating. He had value, just wouldn't have taken a real scouting department to identify non-top 20 organizational prospects in other organizations. We don't have that, so we non-tender Cantrell. In short, we're bad at running the baseball. Rebuttal to that. Why is Broadman08 wrong about B-Rod? Why should we, or maybe is he correct? Do we agree or disagree with Broadman on B-Rod another year, try to trade him at July?
I'm pretty indifferent about it.
Yeah, I'm sure that was part of the conversation for the Rockies to keep him around for another year. It would have been in the ballpark of $5.5 million. And, you know, you look at what Kyle Farmer has been able to do over the last 4 seasons, while he doesn't have the same upside as Brendan Rodgers. And again, we're really only talking about the upside for 2025 because he's much older. He's 34 years old, but despite the fact that he might not have the better upside, he could provide a similar value at a drastically lower cost. And even in a scenario in which Farmer ends up, having 500 plus plate appearances, Rockies only end up saving $1 million. I think they really might be cash strapped right now. And so that $1 million to possibly trade him at the deadline if he breaks out. They're in this similar spot, this time last year. So, and it didn't really come to fruition in that way. So might as well just cut ties now.
I also think this opinion is if Rodgers wasn't a top 3 pick, I don't think you have this opinion whatsoever. So I think this is like a bias towards high value draft pick, even though that happened like 10 years ago.
The pedigree that goes along with the name. Yeah. Cantrell piece is infuriating. He had value, just would have taken a real scouting department to identify the non-top 20 organizational prospects in other organizations. This one I am going to disagree with. I don't think shipping Cal and his $9 million contract for 2 prospects was going to be bought by anybody.
I think we were saying that like Cal was going to regress, and he did. Like, if I'm not wrong, it was like the underlying stats weren't too great for Cal.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
so
wow.
Like other teams saw that and didn't make a trade.
Right. I don't think exactly agree. Back to Reddit. Oh, wow. New direction. So a slightly more sharp downward trajectory, or are we going to flatten out more and just settle for more mediocre baseball? This is exciting. Colorado Rockies fans are hurt.
You know what you should have done, Aaron? You should have taken that and then been like, who do you think this is referring to? What player do you think this is referring to? Because that's like almost like you'd be thinking we're losing like an all-star caliber player with that reaction. But
slightly more. Yeah. Yeah. It is hard to swallow the fact that Rodgers and Quintrell were let to go for nothing, quote unquote. No, fam, we've been swallowing this level of incompetency for a lifetime and swallowing it and swallowing it and swallowing it again. This team will never not be terrible. Hopefully, new direction at second base leads to something good. Rodgers was miserably average and wouldn't have been a notable player if he didn't have any outlier defensive year. That kind of goes to what Mike was saying a little bit ago. If you're going in a circle, then technically you're constantly going in a new direction. Ha 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 ha.
I appreciate that you read out every single ha on that one, Aaron.
I think I got the good 4 A's at the end there too. Last one. It's cool to be all anti-Rockies in this sub, but I'm scratching my head at the replies here. You all really are thinking losing Quintrell and Rodgers is bad. Rodgers is good, but hurt constantly, and Quintrell is about as inconsistent as one can be as a starter. Why not make room for people with more potential? That is not my burner account, I promise. So Reddit, that's where Rockies fans are on Reddit. A little disheartened, a little apathetic, which don't really blame them. It is what it is. That is the Reddit. That is the forum. It can be fun. It can be dark. But yeah, I think that will end it tonight, fellas. Unless you got something good for the cause.
Nope. This has been fun. I thanks for having me on and seeing the homie Grant, getting to see his baseball card collection. That was a fun one, and definitely a good reason for everyone to go over on the visual side on YouTube to check this podcast out.
Yes, check out his cards doing that thing. Patrick, go ahead and plug away. Where can people find you while you're covering the winter meetings next week?
JustBaseball.com, written articles there, the Rockies Insider podcast and the Rockies Insider on YouTube at Patrick D. Lyons or at Patrick D. Lyons MLB on all social media platforms.
All right, Mike, do you want to plug anything?
Not much. We're almost there to the winter meetings. Hopefully we get that golden at bat rule. I'm sure we're all fans of that. So
there is 0% chance that comes into play. Like, that's just Twitter being Twitter, right? Like, there is no chance this is actually.
Well, Rob Manfred did bring this up, but you're still right. It is at 0%.
Yeah,
0% chance. Like, is it good marketing by Major League Baseball? Is this what they're actually thinking ahead of the game? Like, hey, let's market winter meetings next week with Golden Rule. I don't know.
I think they wanted to have somebody bring that up in a meeting so that they could bring it up outside of the meeting. And then, similar to the NFL. NFL is a year-long, fan experience. And so now people are talking about baseball more, now that they've actually implemented some new rules, it doesn't seem entirely too far-fetched. Savannah Bananas are doing things like that. And you go, let's at least talk about it. Whereas, there's a point in time in which no one would be talking about baseball if you weren't a baseball show. Now, the ESPN, I think, has to acknowledge baseball at some point, this winter.
And there it is. And we get the Golden Bat rule to do that. Before we get out of here, I'm going to play the Grant Hankins.
Not enough?
Right. Not able to do it. Grant Hankins ad read before we get out of here. And then go Rocks. Woo! And last but not least, thank you to Grant Hankins for donating all the cards and being an OG BSB listener and follower. Go ahead and give Grant Hankins a follow, and maybe you'll just be entered into our card giveaway next time for following Grant at GHankins25, GHANKINS 25. Thank you, Grant.